Hello and welcome everyone. This is Dr. Herman Batul, and today we're here to imagine you're living in a house or your home, and there are six villains who are continuously messing it all up. So, in today's lecture, we'll focus on these villains, these six types of pollution that affect or mess up your air, your land, water, thermal, radiation, and noise pollution. One by one, we'll look at their definitions, their sources, impacts, and solutions. Focus on the figure so you can see how air pollution is happening, what is water pollution causing, soil pollution, noise pollution, light pollution, radioactive pollution, plastic pollution, and thermal pollution. Let's plunge into it in detail now. So the first villain that we'll focus on is air pollution. Air pollution is basically when our air gets mixed up with harmful gases plus particles that make it unsafe to breathe. If oxygen is life, air pollution is the thief of life. By definition, the release of harmful gases, particulate matter, or biological molecule in the atmosphere that will alter its natural composition, which is mainly nitrogen, then a lot of oxygen, less carbon dioxide, and very trace other gases. If this composition is changed, and this change in composition actually causes damage to the living beings and the environment or the ecosystem, then we will call it air pollution. It has like some sources, mainly here I have divided them in anthropogenic sources and the natural sources. In anthropogenic or human caused sources are the transport or the vehicles exhaust, like cars, bikes, trucks, exhausts. These all exhaust carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and also particulate matter. Besides these, industrial chimneys or factories, they release into the atmosphere sulfur dioxide, smoke, fly ash. Besides these, the domestic waste, like also the brick kilns, the crop burning, cooking stoves, all these release harmful gases into the atmosphere. The crop residues burning, deforestation is also a major anthropogenic source of air pollution because the the forests that actually sequester a lot of carbon dioxide. When deforestation occurs, all that carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere. The aerosol sprays, which are used at homes, besides there are natural, or the second important one is the natural sources of air pollution, but notably these are not as damaging to the um, environment as the anthropogenic sources of air pollution, because the earth came into be like some 4.5 billion years, but humans rose or were born like for some 300,000 years ago. But still, the main causes of the um, all types of pollution is human beings, because this is during the past 1 century that our environment has deteriorated to these levels. But still, the natural sources for study purposes are volcanic eruptions, the fires in forests, dust storms, and pollens. All these air pollutions has a drastic impacts on our ecosystem. They actually damage at all level of ecosystem. They damage plants, animals and humans, ecosystem or environment, and they also disrupt the food chains. Oh, when plants are facing the air pollution, acid rain might happen. Acid rain, that is mainly a type of secondary type of air pollution. So when it rains acid, it damages the plant leaves and reduces photosynthesis, and also depletes ozones and causing leaf spots, and also dropping or reducing the crop yield. Smoke reduces sunlight reaching the plants. Thus, this will also result in loss of photosynthesis and loss of plant or crop productivity. In humans or animals, it causes respiratory diseases like asthma, lung cancers, high BP, particulate matter go straight to the blood, and it also in animals particularly it reduces their fertility. On ecosystem, global warming due to carbon dioxide, methane, and these will further cause climate change and other impact. Acid rain damages the soils, the lakes, buildings, and ozone depletion increases ultraviolet radiations. This will further damage the plants and animal tissue. Food chains are disrupted due to air pollution because pollutants like heavy metals they settle on plants which are eaten by herbivores and which are then eaten by the carnivore. Thus they enter the food chain, and these heavy metal they keep on building inside the bodies of carnivore, and they biomagnify there, means their quantity will keep increasing with each feeding, and it will reach to such uh, cancer causing or carcinogenic or other tissue damage levels that it can become very dangerous. So there are some hero moves that we can make. We can control, mitigate the air pollution by planting trees, and also we can remove the sources. So if we will stop it at source, it can definitely reduce the air pollution. Like we can use the cleaner fuels like CNG, LPG. We can switch to renewable energy, which is solar and wind energies, which are very clean as compared to the um, biogas or the oil resources or the fossil fuels that we now normally use. They cause a lot of, even burning the biomass can cause a lot of air pollution. We can install scrubbers and electrostatic precipitators in industries that can actually clean up the gases that are released into the atmosphere by industries, and this will actually reduce the or control the air pollution. We can also control vehicle emissions by, like, some have emission standards in our country wherever we live in the world. Then catalytic converters can also reduce the harmful gases emission from the car engines. Carpooling is very effective. Imagine 100 people riding or driving their individual cars, and the same 100 people same 100 people carpooling or riding or driving in a large bus which can accommodate everyone. And that large bus definitely is one vehicle, so it will definitely release less harmful gases into the atmosphere as compared to the 100 individual cars. Electric vehicles are also good as the electric vehicles, like they're not using the petrol or the diesel, which can cause a lot of harmful gases emission by the vehicles. And planting trees, of course, as they naturally filter the air, and in these green belts around the cities and industries are very important because they will keep cleaning the air by absorbing a lot of carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. The fifth very important mitigation strategy can be implementing different policies. The Heritage Education Commission, who's responsible for um, bringing different types of curricula in universities, causing awareness amongst the general masses and students. It can um, help a lot. Then PEPA, Pakistan Environmental Protection Agency, or Balochistan Environmental Protection Agency, or anywhere in the world there are environmental protection agencies that can maintain air quality standards, banning the crop burning, and bringing public awareness. And this can actually increase the air quality index. In this illustration, you can see the air quality index can be very bad in a city. From not okay, it can be good or excellent. But it all depends upon implementation of the policy and also other control mitigation strategies. The second villain is Captain Drip, causing water pollution. By definition, Captain Drip makes water unsafe by adding different chemicals, germs, or trash into clean water. Now, his water is becoming ew. This ew water is actually very harmful for our use. You can define it as the contamination of water bodies like rivers, lakes, groundwater by harmful substances that make water unfit for use. Like I told you, my other students, that there is a potable water or available water, which is actually 1% of all waters on earth. That 1% water, when it is converted into wastewater, which is unavailable or not potable anymore, which we cannot drink or we cannot use for other purposes, becomes the wastewater, is actually polluting water or water pollution. Now, there are different types of weapons or sources of water pollution. Major water pollution sources are the point sources, non-point sources, or domestic sources. Point sources, basically we call those sources that are coming from one large pipe or one effluent of industry or hospital or household, and you know that this is the particular source from this water pollutant is coming. So we call those as the point sources, like the industrial waste pipes, sewage outfalls, or oil spill. Compared to this, there are non-point sources of water pollution, which comes from agriculture or urban runoff, with fertilizer, with pesticides, with mining runoffs, and plastic litter. All these are actually the non-point sources, because you cannot say that from which particular source is all this pollutant coming from. There are domestic sources of water pollution like detergents, sewage, garbage dumped in canals. So all these, besides these, there are others like oil spills or ship wastes. These can also cause water pollution. Here in the figure you can see the point source, which is coming by a large pipe and polluting the water body. And compared to this bottom one is actually a non-point source, where you can see a lot of plastic and other mixed sources and types of water pollutants coming from different sources. Now all these villainous activities of Mr. Captain Drip will impact or damage our environment or ecosystem. It will cause eutrophication due to nitrates and phosphates in the water bodies, which actually are source of energy for algae, and these algae that grow a lot in the water body. And algal bloom will make actually a film of algae living on the surface of water, and this will also deplete oxygen from the water body, which can kill the fish. It will also block the sun rays from passing this film and reaching to the submerged plants. So this will cause a dead zone in the water body, which may be a pond, a stream, or a river. So eutrophication or algal bloom actually happens as an impact of water pollution. The second notable impact of water pollution on ecosystem is bioaccumulation, where heavy metals, they accumulate in fish, they accumulate in plants, and they can enter the food chain. First, they will enter to in the fish, and they will enter the plant bodies and in the algae, or like other kelps in the ocean, in the rivers, in the ponds or streams, from where they will be eaten by birds and other larger aquatic life or other. And eventually when they enter the food chain, they can reach human, who will feed on the fish or on algae. Thus, they will accumulate in the bodies of the carnivore animals or humans, and they can cause damage to health. They can cause serious illnesses, even cancers. The water quality becomes very toxic for drinking, for irrigation, and it causes diseases like cholera, typhoid, and hepatitis. As the potable water or the available water, which is pure or clean water, when it is contaminated from any source, it becomes wastewater, and this wastewater is not good for any activity. It is not good for irrigation. It is not good for drinking. It also causes a habitat loss. The oil spills, the coat birds, fish, and this will actually destroy mangroves and coral reefs, and it will cause a habitat loss for all these aquatic species. How we can control or mitigate or stop water pollution? For this, we definitely need some hero moves. For the hero moves, you can treat the water. Treating water means recycling the water, like the potable or the available water, the pure water that was converted to the wastewater. We can treat it and recycle it back into pure water And there are different levels of water treatments, and namely we call them primary, secondary, tertiary, or advanced levels of sewage waste treatment before discharge. This will actually um, reduce the amount of wastewater and increase the amount of available or pure water. It is very effective, and there are so many countries in the world which treat their wastewaters into pure waters, like in Europe, in USA. There are so many wastewater treatment plants that treat water up to secondary level, and in countries like Sweden or Australia, they treat up to advanced levels. In Pakistan, only 1% of our wastewater is being treated up to like which is not actually sufficient. So we have to reduce or mitigate or control water pollution at its source. We can reduce the runoff and use organic fertilizers in from the agricultural runoffs or the urban runoffs. Drip irrigation can actually help a lot because the flood irrigation uses a lot of water and turns it into wastewater, and this runoff then ultimately adds to the water pollution in streams or in rivers. The buffer strips of plants along rivers can actually clean up and reduce the runoff to the rivers. Waste management is also very important mitigation strategy to stop water pollution. It can stop dumping garbage in water. In countries like Singapore, they have created an underwater dump uh, dump the waste dump from industries and from even the solid waste. They just dump it underwater, and that water is kept separate from their natural water. So this is a very good strategy of waste management. We can also reduce, reuse, and recycle plastics. The three R's are actually very effective in reducing or controlling the water pollution. Again, in each type of pollution or in each these villainous activities, the hero move will be to bring in the policy, the rules, the laws, and monitoring. So these can actually reduce the water pollution by monitoring and also by causing awareness. Water quality standards can be set. WWF water conservation projects um, are very useful for conserving the water, and public awareness is the most important one, because if the public is aware, there will be less water pollution. So moving to the third one is soil or land pollution. You can call this villain as Dr. Dump. What Dr. Dump does is that it ruins soil by adding waste that soil cannot decompose. Good soil grows food, while Dr. Dump's soil grows problems. You can define the soil pollution as degradation of land quality by addition of harmful chemicals, waste, or change in the physical structure of soil, making soil unproductive. So you can see if the soil is polluted, it becomes unproductive. Um, let's look at this major sources of soil or land pollution. These, like the four main ones, are agricultural, industrial, urban, or mining sources of land pollution or soil pollution. In agricultural activities, the pesticides, chemical fertilizers, or irrigation with saline water can actually pollute the soils to a certain level that um, they become unproductive, and they are like desertification is the result of such land which cannot produce anything. It cannot support crops or grow crops. The industrial dumping of fly ash, slag, or heavy metals, or radioactive waste, or any chemicals into the soil can actually also reduce crop productivity, the soil productivity, in fact, and this soil cannot produce any crops. Even other wild plants cannot grow on this kind of polluted soil by industries. The urban solid waste, plastics, e-waste, construction debris, and open defecation can also pollute the soil. Mining activities overburden the soils, and acid mine drainage can actually damage the soil productivity to utmost levels. Here in this figure, we can actually see how different sources like the agriculture and mining activities, industrial activities, then urban waste, and further biological and chemical transformation, these all can actually pollute the soil, and these heavy metals and sediments can store in this seabed or the stream bed, then polluting the soils around. So, what are the drastic impacts of soil pollution on the ecosystem? It can damage or cause loss of fertility. This will kill the beneficial bacteria, microbes, earthworms, and reduce crop yields. Besides these, the plants will become toxic, and these toxic materials can enter into the plants. Plants have this ability to clean the soil, but when they in the process of cleaning the soil, they take up the heavy metal from the soil, they absorb it, and it enters the food chain, because these plants then will be eaten by the herbivores, and then the herbivores be eaten by the carnivores and the omnivores. So in that case, this will be biomagnified as well. So desertification or the loss of topsoil due to erosion plus poor land use can actually cause the removal of the top fertile soil and the loss of topsoil, which then become desertified. Here I've shown in this figure. The water pollution can be a cause of soil pollution because it leaches down from the polluted soil and it contaminates the groundwater. So water pollution is actually causing soil pollution, and soil pollution in turn is again causing the water pollution at the groundwater level. All these are very damaging to the ecosystem. How we can control what can be our hero moves: we can conserve the soil, we can manage our waste, we can reclaim the soils, and again, the one that we add in each type of mitigation strategies: policy, by ban on polythene bags, by regulating dumping sites, and soil testing before farming. In soil conservation activities, we can rotate soil, we can use organic farming, composting. Compost is an organic fertilizer instead of the chemical fertilizer. You can use biofertilizer, and vermicomposting is also very useful. These can conserve a soil, and we can like stop soil degradation at the or before the source. Waste management like sanitary landfills, incineration of medical waste, and recycling e-waste. This can actually stop soil pollution, reclamation of the polluted soils by phytoremediation, growing plants like sunflower that absorb heavy metals, and bioremediation using microbes can also be done. There are so many bacteria which actually break down the heavy metals and other pollutants in the soil and clean that soil and reclaim the soil. So the fourth villain is the thermal pollution. Thermal pollution we can call as the Mr. Heat shock. What it does is the rise or fall in temperature of the natural water bodies due to human activities, causing harmful changes to aquatic life. In the figure, you can see that there's an industry which is continuously taking up the cold water, which is entering the industry, and the water that is being released is the hot water. And as a result, we can see further in the lecture that how it impacts the ecosystem. Its major sources are power plants, nuclear and coal power plants, industries, and urban runoff. These use water for cooling and release the hot water back into the rivers and the lakes. Textile and paper or steel industries, they also discharge hot effluents. Hot water from roads, parking lots, it flows into the stream. How it impacts the ecosystem? It actually drops the level of dissolved oxygen because the hot water holds less oxygen, and this oxygen which is dissolved in the water is released into the atmosphere. It causes in fish suffocation and death. Not just fish, but the other aquatic plants that are submerged, they can also die. Metabolic changes can like making the fish eggs hatch early. Species can migrate to other areas. Hence, heat-sensitive species actually die. Besides that, if the water temperature is too high, in case of reptiles and amphibians, all the eggs that will hatch, they will hatch into the male reptile or amphibians, causing the loss of that biodiversity. Algal growth or eutrophication, as we looked at in the water pollution section. Then food web disruption. The changes in one species affects predators plus prey. So these are the bad impacts of Mr. Heatwave on the ecosystem. Now, how we can control this, or what can be our hero moves in this case? The hero moves can be, we can install cooling towers that cool the hot water before releasing it into the water bodies. We can make cooling ponds or lakes, like building these structures that will cool the water naturally before discharging into the streams or rivers. We can have alternative cooling methods, like using dry cooling system instead of water in the power plants, and planting more trees along the river banks. This shade will actually keep the water cool. The fifth villain is actually Miss Dr. Ray. Dr. Ray causes radiation pollution. It is invisible energy waves from radioactive substances. We cannot see, smell, or feel them. But too much of Dr. Ray can cause DNA damage. Scientifically, we'll define it as the release of high energy particles or electromagnetic waves from nuclear or other sources that damage DNA and cells. Its major sources are nuclear power plant. In history, there have been accidents like in Chernobyl, in Fukushima, and the nuclear waste disposal can all, if it's not disposed of properly, can cause radiation pollution. Medically, X-rays, CT scans, radiotherapy, waste, if they're not handled properly or not controlled properly, they can cause radiation pollutions. Naturally, radon gas from rocks, cosmic rays, or ultraviolet radiations from sun can cause radiation pollution. In industries, use of radioactive isotopes engages testing. They can cause radioactive pollutions. Now, its impacts on the ecosystem. It damages DNA because it has a capability, it is capable of causing mutation in plants and animals, causing birth defects or cancers, specifically in animals and humans. It can damage plants, like high radiation can kill seeds, reduce their germination and growth of the plants. It can also cause death of animals. Radiation sickness causes death of birds, mammals near the source. How we can control by safe disposal, proper disposal of the nuclear waste, like we can bury it deep underground in sealed containers, following the rules can IAEA rules can actually um, mitigate this issue. Shielding, like using lead concentrate barriers around radiation sources in hospital labs. Monitoring, gauger, counter, radiation detectors near nuclear sites. This proper monitoring can reduce the radioactive pollutions. Again, policy, strict licensing for nuclear material. Public evacuation plans minimize unnecessary use of X-rays or in the CT scans or medical procedures. The sixth one is the noise pollution. In noise pollution, we can call the DJ loud, is any unwanted sound. The unwanted loud sounds that cause physical and psychological stress to humans and animals. It is measured in decibels. Anything above 80 decibels is harmful, but there are certain definitions which say that anything above 55 decibels can cause or damage the noise pollution and damage the hearing and other such damages. So these are all different sources that we are going to look at in the further um, video. The major sources of DJ loud or noise pollution is transport, industry, domestic, loudspeakers, music systems, and there can be like factories, traffic jams in cities like Karachi, Quetta, or in any other city around the world. The loud horns or aircrafts in industry, machinery, construction, or equipment, they can all cause loud noises, and it has some drastic adverse impacts on the ecosystem. On humans, it can cause hearing loss, hypertension, sleep disturbance, stress, and reduced concentration. Beside these, nausea and blurring of vision can also happen in humans due to loud noises. In animals, birds cannot hear mating calls, and breeding failure can actually um, actually cause loss of the species or loss of biodiversity. Bats and whales lost navigation. Animals flee from their habitats. So there's a loss of habitat for animals. On environment in particular, noise scares pollinators like bees, reduces crop yields, and marine noise disturbs fish communication. Psychologically, it increases adrenaline, reduces immunity in animals and in humans. How we can control the noise pollution? At source, we can control it using silencers, mufflers, like maintaining vehicles, low noise machinery. Path control, like building sound barriers, walls, even planting trees acts as natural sound absorbers. It will also stop the noise pollution. Receivers control, like double glazed windows, earplugs for workers. Zoning, like keeping industries away from the residential areas. Besides this, again, the policy, PEPA limits the noise like 55 decibels and 45 decibels in the during the night. In residential areas, ban loudspeakers after 10 p.m. It can all reduce the noise pollution. Um, so this is a summary table. Like these are the pollution sources, like names like air pollution, water pollution, land, thermal radiation, noise pollution, and the sources, then major ecosystem impacts and their control. Like for air pollution, it comes from sources like vehicles, industry, it causes acid rain, it damages forests, and catalytic converters and planting trees can be key control measures. Water pollution comes from sewage runoff, and it causes the eutrophication, kill the fish. Sewage treatment plants can actually reduce water pollution. Land pollution comes from the pesticides and wastes and causes loss of soil fertility. Organic farming techniques plus compost can be a key control measure. Thermal pollution comes from the power plants, reduces the dissolved oxygen. Cooling towers can help. The radiation pollution sources are nuclear waste, causes DNA mutations and cancers. Deep burial and shielding can control this issue. The last one is the noise pollution, which comes from traffic machines. Breathing failure in birds can happen due to it, and sound barriers and silencers can actually stop this issue. So you see, the humans are actually acting here both as the villain or as the hero. So it's our footprint, it's our carbon footprint or our footprint on the ecosystem, that how we are using our ecosystem. The human negligence can become the villain, but we are also the hero. Every tree that we plant, every tap that we close, every horn that we don't press actually can make us a hero. So now this is our own personal decision what we want it to be. Thank you for listening, and that's all for today. Bye bye.